You know that feeling, right? You stare at a perfectly planned out calendar, all color coded and neat, and you just feel tired before the day's even begun. If that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. So in this explainer, we're going to look at a much kinder way to plan our days. You know, this quote I saw online just hits the nail on the head. It really captures how so many people feel, especially if you're navigating something like ADHD, chronic pain, or just executive function challenges. The whole idea of a rigid back-to-back schedule, it's not just unhelpful, it can feel like your enemy, creating way more stress than it ever solves. So, if the systems that seem to work for everyone else just feel like a trap, where do you go from there? Well, the good news is there is an alternative. It's all about a gentle reframe, a new way of thinking about our schedules, our energy, and what we want to accomplish. All right, so before we can find a solution, we got to understand the why. Why do these super rigid systems backfire on us so often? Well, the answer is all about the unique way our brains and bodies manage energy. First up, let's talk about something called executive functioning. Basically, think of it as the project manager for your brain. It's the whole set of mental skills that covers everything from managing your time and attention to planning things out, getting organized, and, maybe the hardest part, actually starting the task. When that system works a little differently, typical planning methods can just completely fall apart. A really perfect way to picture this is to think of your brain as a giant orchestra. Your executive function, that's the conductor. It's supposed to coordinate all the different sections, your memory, your focus, your motions, to create a beautiful, finished piece of music or a completed task. But if the conductor is feeling overwhelmed or just has a different conducting style, the whole orchestra can sound pretty out of sync. And that leads a lot of us into what's called the boom or bust cycle. Oh, you know this feeling. You have a rare high-energy day and you think, I'm going to do everything. That's the boom. You push and push. And then what happens? The bust. A total crash period of exhaustion where even pouring a glass of water feels impossible. And this isn't just a simple up and down. It creates this really gnarly feedback loop. Every time you go through this cycle, the bust gets a little bit deeper. The burnout feels more intense. The mood roller coaster is wilder. And it takes longer and longer just to get back to your starting point. It makes any kind of real, sustainable progress feel totally out of reach. So, how do we get off this roller coaster? The answer is we stop fighting it. We reframe the entire goal. And this is where we shift from looking at the problem to finding a truly compassionate solution. And this right here, this is the big idea. Let's just let go of that obsession with controlling every single minute of our day. What if instead our planning system was designed to protect our most valuable and most unpredictable resource, our energy? Okay, so let's look at the difference. Traditional time blocking has these rigid appointments. If you miss one, you feel guilty, it feels like failure. But flexible energy blocking, it uses flexible containers. The goal is simply to match a task's energy cost to what you've actually got in the tank. And if you have to move a block, it's not failure, it's just feedback, it's data. Okay, this all sounds really good in theory, right? But what does it actually look like day to day? Let's break down how you can build this into a system you can literally start using today. Getting started is actually pretty simple. First, you just name your main energy types. What drains you physically, mentally, socially? Next, you create a little menu of your most common tasks, and you sort them into those buckets. This is not a to-do list. It's more like a palette of options. Then you can arrange these blocks to match how you think your energy will be. And the most important step of all, leave blank space between your blocks. That's not wasted time, it's recovery time. Here's a perfect example of what a personal block menu could look like. You've got these movable chunks. See how PT homework is clearly a high-cost physical block. And care admin, making those phone calls, that's a mental block. Separating them like this helps you avoid accidentally scheduling two huge energy-draining tasks back to back, which is a classic recipe for a crash. And notice, recovery window is on there as a real plannable activity, because it is. And listen, you do not need a fancy app for this. This system works with whatever you like to use. It can be color-coded blocks in your digital calendar. It can be sticky notes you move around on your fridge. It can be a simple paper planner. The power here is not in the tool, it's in the approach. The best system is always the one you'll actually stick with. All right, and to make this whole thing really stick, it's not just about the method, it's about the mindset. There are a few core principles that make this approach so kind and so powerful. I want you to think of these less as rules and more as permissions. You have permission for your blocks to be flexible guides, not ironclad laws. You have permission to see rest as a productive, essential part of your plan. You have permission to always be in charge of your schedule, not the other way around. And most importantly, you have permission to see a moved block not as a failure, but as what it is, useful feedback. It's just a little clue to help you make an even better plan tomorrow. And really, that's what this is all about. This isn't another productivity hack designed to squeeze more out of you. It's about creating a structure that supports your well-being, that respects your body's limits, and that allows you to show up for your life in a way that is sustainable and, more than anything, kind to yourself.